And too many people live in the past. You know, the Lion King movie had one of the greatest lines ever. Rafiki's a baboon with a stick. He hits Simba over the head. Simba goes, "How that hurt?" Rafiki says, "Don't worry about it. It's in the past." Simba goes, "Yeah, it's in the past, but it still hurts." And Rafiki makes the best statement. That's right. The past can hurt, but you either run from the past or you learn from the past. And the reality is this. You and I, when you drive a car, those who drive, if you spend all your time looking in the rearview mirror, you're going to crash, hurt yourself and somebody else. Well, here's a simple thing I want to throw out in the beginning before I give you a little piece of my story. And that is this. Every person in this world, starting with Bobby Petrocelli and everybody listening, has been hurt, has been wounded, has been broken, has been offended, has been mistreated, has not felt loved, has been rejected, isolated, and not felt important and valued. We have all gone through that. But here's the key. That's not who you are. You're not defined by that. And usually if somebody mistreats you or does something wrong to you, it's because something going on in their life. They're hurting. They're in pain and anguish. And they're desperately trying to anesthetize the pain. They're trying to rub out the pain. They're trying to get rid of the pain. And the sad part is many times they use the wrong thing to do it. And they go down the wrong path. And we know very well how somebody who handled their life situation wrong and dealt with it wrong and how much Santa Fe's community has been hurt and has suffered. But it doesn't change how amazing you are, how much you matter, how valuable you are, how incredible you are. And I'm so proud of Santa Fe because you have not allowed what happened 2 years ago to define you. Yes, it hurts. Yes, lives have been lost, hurt. There's no question. We don't minimize anything. But you're so amazing. You're so valuable. You're so incredible. And the fact that you're still breathing and have a pulse is amazing. And you know what I learned in life? We all get knocked down. The difference of those who succeed and fail are those who are willing to get up one more time. It doesn't mean it's easy, but that's why I said earlier, life doesn't happen one day at a time. Life happens one moment at a time. And every single moment has the power to build habits, patterns, and routines. Every moment has the power to affect not only my life, but the lives of others. And Santa Fe knows that very well. Bobby Petrocelli knows that very well. You see, over 30 years ago, for those who don't know my story, and I'll share just a little bit of it, I was working at Santa Fe High School as a teacher and a coach. I was in my 3rd year. I loved my time there. I loved the people of Santa Fe. I loved my students of Santa Fe. And basically one night I travel to Wharton, Texas. We have a football game. There's a freshman and JV game that night in Wharton, and I was helping out in both games. Finally, halfway through the JV game, we left. We brought the freshman kids back and got to come back to Santa Fe. And I went back home. I was living in League City. I'd only been in this house for almost 2 months. I had been married to Ava for about 2.5 years. We had just moved into this house Labor Day weekend. This is the very, very end of October. And it was actually, the date was October 24th, going into the 25th. I come home. I hadn't seen Ava the entire day. I didn't get home literally till like almost 11 o'clock at night. I have a little something to eat. We talk about the day's event. And basically, she goes to bed. I follow not too far behind her, go to bed, say goodnight to her, looking forward to the next day, getting back at Santa Fe High School, looking forward to Friday night. I would go out scouting and traveling because most of the time I worked with freshmen and JV. And then on Friday nights, I'd be part of the scout team and get game film for the team we're going to play the next week. Well, I say goodnight to Ava, and the next thing I know, I wake up approximately 1 hour later. I'm sitting in my dining room window, and there's a full-size F1 Ford pickup truck parked in the middle of my dining room. My wife is trapped somewhere underneath. I'm frantically running throughout the house trying to figure out what's going on. Am I dreaming? Am I going to wake up? This isn't a truck. This is crazy. A truck in my house, and I'm in the dining room window. Was I looking for more pasta? What am I doing? Because I had pasta for dinner when I came home. I finally remember running through the house, trying to go turn on lights, figure out what's going on. And I look in the bathroom mirror on the far side of the house. It was a nightmare. Waterfall of blood pouring down my face. I remember grabbing a towel, getting it wet, wiping my face from left to right, not being able to go any further because some of you know this, but there was a hole in my cheek. My tongue was literally pushing through. I remember just wiping it and stepping out in the middle of the house, and there I see the front of the truck, trying to focus around the headlights, and I see something moving under the truck in the sheets in the mattress, and I freak out. I try to lift it. I can't budge it. I hear pounding at the front door. I run to it. I open it. In staggers another man screaming. I saw the whole thing happen. I run past him down the block, beating on my neighbor's door. Little did I know, I thought I went to the neighbor's house. I went 3 houses down the block. I finally turn around to come back. I hear somebody yell, "There he is." 2 men grab me from behind. I start to fight with them. Why? Growing up in New York City, I was always told to be careful. If I ever felt threatened, I'd back up against a wall so nobody could ever get behind me. Well, it turns out these are the paramedics from from Clear Lake Hospital. It was a Humana hospital at the time. And the next thing I know, I am taken through the house, and I noticed this commotion in the front because I was saying to them, "Please, don't worry about me. I think my wife's under a truck." As they're bringing me through the house past the commotion, I noticed some people trying to work on taking care of Ava under the truck. They bring me in the front bedroom. The first words they say, "He's got a broken left forearm." The next thing I know, they tell me I had rubber from the truck tires melted into my skin. I'm watching my body sizzle, smoke. Before I know it, they're opening the front window, telling me they're taking me away, and I'm not leaving. I can't leave Ava behind. I am on a stretcher in an ambulance, in the ambulance leaving my development, screaming at the paramedics, "You can't take me away. My wife's in the house." I remember trying to peek out the back windows of the ambulance because when they put you in an ambulance, you're looking out towards the back is how I was. And I could tell my back brick bedroom wall is missing. In the darkness of my bedroom, 2 red taillights of a pickup truck glowing in the night. Somewhere under that truck is my wife of 2.5 years. They wheel me into the emergency room. I'm left by myself. I'm crying. I'm praying. I'm spitting glass out of my mouth. "Where's Ava? Somebody talk to me, please." And I finally notice somebody approaching my bedside, believing it's a doctor. I excitedly turn to greet him because I want to get to the bottom of this. I want to find out what's going on. Where's Ava? Is she okay? Am I going to be okay? And it turns out the gentleman who introduces himself is the chaplain of the local police department there in League City. He asked, "Am I Bobby Petrocelli?" I go, "Yeah, I don't know how you know me, sir. I got to know, has my wife Ava made it to the hospital yet?" The number one reason for 30 years that I've been speaking all over this nation is because of Santa Fe High School. I'll get to that in a moment. But number 2 is the words I'm about to hear from this chaplain. And the first 2 words he said to me, I know some of you have heard these words, some of you family members have heard these words in life, especially even after what happened 2 years ago. "I'm sorry." Stop. If you're not apologizing to me, I don't want to hear what comes next. A second time he says, "I'm sorry." Stop. And finally he calms me down enough in his mind. But I knew I was in trouble because I'm watching tears roll off of his cheeks onto my hands, onto my arm. And at 24.5 years old, married for 2.5 years, working at Santa Fe High School for 2.5 years, the chaplain of the local police department continues his statement and says, "I'm sorry to tell you, your wife Ava did not make it. Your wife Ava is dead." If this man ain't lying to me, if I'm not sleeping or I'm not dreaming, my life was not changed in one day. My life was changed in one moment, and one moment changed my life forever. The next thing I know, this happened late Thursday night, the 24th, going into the 25th of October. I stayed till the 26th of October, Saturday. I forced the doctors to let me out, and I'm going to see Ava for the first time. It was at a place called Jack Rose Funeral Home in League City, Texas. And when I seen her for the first time, she's laid out in a casket. And I remember on the way there, before I even left Ava's parents' house, I get out of the hospital, I go back to her parents' house. There's friends and family members. I'm like, "Why are they here?" "Okay, don't worry about it. I'm going to see Ava. I know she's waiting for me." Because Saturday night, Every Saturday night, we would go to our favorite restaurant. There was a favorite Mexican restaurant in the area called Casa Ole. And we would go after I was done with my football responsibilities. She would always meet me there. And the problem was, I get out of the hospital, I'm back at Ava's parents' house in Friendswood, Texas. There's family members and friends. They gather with me. They put me in the car. I'm thinking, okay, they can come have dinner with me and Ava. I don't care. We start to drive, and all of a sudden I see Casa Ole, and they're passing it up, and I'm yelling at them, where are you going? Where are you going? Ava's waiting for me there. Why aren't you stopping? Please. She would meet me there at 6. This is like right before 6 o'clock. They keep on going. The next thing I know, we're in League City, and they pull in front of this building. They don't even let me see what the building is yet. I'm escorted in the building. I'm in a long room, and that's when I see my wife in the distance. She's in a light purple colored casket. And I remember running up to her, shaking her and begging her to wake up. And when she doesn't move, I yelled at her. I said, Ava, this is not where we planned our date. I would have never agreed to this. What are you doing here? I want to go back home. I want to go to Casa Ole, please. I remember literally shaking her, begin to pull her out of the casket. She doesn't move, and I realize more than ever my life was not changed in one day. My life was changed in one moment. 2 days later, funeral service at the church. A church that normally seats 500 people. Friendswood United Methodist Church. They guesstimated in the church, on the floor, around the altar, against the walls, on the side and the back, fire marshal nightmare, in the vestibule lobby, even some in the parking lot, they guesstimated close to 2,000 people. I'll tell you about those in a moment. From the church, we go to downtown Houston right after Ava was killed. That weekend, a small hurricane moved in the area called Hurricane Juan. Not very big, more of a nuisance to dump water and rain in the area. Well, Monday morning, we had to have the funeral service at the church and then go to the cemetery, Green Lawn Cemetery in Houston, Texas. A normal 35, 40-minute drive to downtown Houston from Friendswood took us an hour and 45 minutes to 2 hours because things were still kind of flooded, but we had to go because so many family members and friends came in from out of town. They had to go back to their cities and their states and where they were from. I finally get into the cemetery. I'm escorted. I'm escorted under this green tent. The minister says and tells us we're done. After he performs a ceremony there in the cemetery, it wasn't very long. I'm not ready to leave. I remember jumping on the casket. My friends pull me off the casket and they start to escort me back to my car. And as they begin to escort me back to my car, right before I get to the car, I said to one of my buddies, please, one last look, one final goodbye. Because I know I come back tomorrow, Ava won't be above ground. The number one reason why Bobby Petrocelli, for the last almost 30 years, has spoken around America, including Santa Fe High School. I have spoken more than 6,000 times in 30 years. I have addressed more than 5 million people in person, not counting newspapers, magazines, books that I've written, because what I saw that day in the church and then in the cemetery. Running through the cemetery on a school day after a hurricane came through the area, like I said, not very big hurricane, but enough to be a nuisance, on a school day, on the 28th day of October, 1985, running through the cemetery. Of the 2,000 people that came to the cemetery or close to it, the majority of those who came was every single student, every single teacher, coach, counselor, administrator from Santa Fe High School, and even some from the junior high where I was teaching a physical education class. They took over the cemetery. They had taken over the literal church. And then I went back in the hospital for 23 days, having 3 major surgeries done on my body. They took over the hospital. And you know what they showed me? The words you see behind me. You matter, coach. The words on my shirt. You matter. We are sorry that Ava was killed, but you matter, coach. And we're going to do everything in our power not to allow this to stop you. You matter, coach. You matter, coach. Or as we say in Brooklyn, yous matter. Or as you say in Texas, y'all matter. The reality is they let me know how valuable and important Bobby Petrocelli still was, and that the The tragedy, the loss of Ava's life was not going to change my life for who I've been put on this earth to be. Yeah, my life would be changed forever because I would never have Ava physically in my life again. I would never be living the life I was living prior to that moment. But I knew because of the support and the love from so many. And everybody showed their love in a different way. There's not one way to show somebody you love them, you care about them. I am here today even able to do this video because of Santa Fe High School. And every 6,000 times I have spoken, Santa Fe High School has been mentioned in those programs. Because my former students are still active in my life. Those co-workers that I worked at Santa Fe, still active in my life, many of them. Because they were there for me when I went through this horrific tragedy. That's why my heart broke when I landed in Tampa, Florida, where I lived 2 years ago on this day. And my cell phone is blowing up. And it's from former students and even some teachers at Santa Fe that are my former students and others just reaching out to me, telling me about the horrific tragedy that you guys were in the middle of experiencing. And I broke down on the plane crying because my heart was devastated because how much I love the Santa Fe community. But I will tell you this, my tragedy did not define me. This tragedy that happened does not define who you are. Yes, it has hurt. It has ripped beautiful people out of this world. But so many of you, if not every one of you, the fact that you're moving forward and making the best of a horrific situation is what counts and what matters. And keeping the value and the beauty of those who were lost and those who were hurt on that tragic day still alive. And to know that, yes, I know many of you are frustrated. You see, here's the deal. The man who crashed through my house was a drunk driver. But I also always tell my audiences, drinking and driving did not kill Ava. Why? Because before you drive drunk, you got to be drunk in the first place. Why is he drunk in the first place? Drinking and driving had a part in her death. But if he was never drunk in the first place, he would have never been driving drunk. Why was he drunk? He was using alcohol abuse to anesthetize his pain. Doesn't make it right. Just like what happened 2 years ago at Santa Fe. Somebody went down the wrong path to try to deal with their own pain or hurt or fear in life, whatever. Doesn't make it right. Lives were hurt and broken. And I want to encourage every one of you. We don't minimize what happened. But you matter. You matter. As the Santa Fe students screamed that message out to me and still do. You matter, coach. You matter. I tell people all over the world about Santa Fe and that Santa Fe matters. And every one of you matter. Your families matter. Your community matters. And how you've worked through this is amazing. You're following some of the protocol that I had to follow to get through my tragedy. Number one, it's the 3 F's. I had to rely on family, friends. I had to rely on a greater faith. I realized who my family and friends were at that time. I'll come back to that in a moment. But I had to have a greater faith. I had to believe in myself. And once again, I don't force my religious faith, if that's the right words, on anybody, but that helped me through my tragedy. It helped me get through it. And I'm grateful. But I had to also believe in myself. And you know what I learned during that time? I would find people who had been through tragedies and adversities. And how did they get through it? Because every form of success or failure in this world, there's habits, patterns, and routines that bring us there moment by moment, one moment at a time. So I started to search out people who got through their tragedies and what did they do to get through it. And one was having faith in themselves. Many of them had a greater and higher faith. Number two, I had to forgive a man. I had to forgive a man who killed my wife, but listen to me. Forgiving him doesn't condone the wrong he did. It's horrific. He only served 4 months in jail, never apologized. Forgiveness and forgiving him sets me free. Unforgiveness is I drink poison, hoping he dies from the poison I drink. It's never going to happen. The greatest gift we give ourselves is to learn from our past, not live in it, let go of it, not let it dominate and control our lives, and then to move forward. Unforgiveness is the greatest detriment. And one of the things I do when I speak in person, I ask a teacher or a coach, I say to them, Have you ever seen anybody's life get better because of unforgiveness in this world? They go, absolutely not. So I say, why would we ever go down the path of unforgiveness knowing nothing good is ever going to come out of it? And the only person we're going to hurt is ourselves. And then we're going to reach out and hurt other people, not on purpose. I can promise you, every negative thing that people do, say, and act upon is because they've had hurt and unforgiveness in their life that they never addressed and dealt with. That's why I always encourage people. Forgiveness doesn't condone wrong. It's okay to be upset and angry here. Disappointed here. Don't let it drop to your heart, your emotional heart, which is your will, your mind, and your emotions. We all have an emotional heart. As I said earlier, we've all been broken. Well, the reality is this man who crashed through my house was a drunk driver, doubly legally drunk, as I mentioned. He was using alcohol abuse to anesthetize the pain because maybe he never dealt with forgiveness in his life, never dealt with the past in his life, and he was trying to drown out the feelings of not feeling loved and valued and accepted. Our greatest fear is the fear of not being loved, being rejected, being isolated or alienated. I can't tell you enough. Forgiveness is the greatest gift you can give yourself. And you know how you forgive? One moment at a time. I remember looking in the mirror, getting angry, so angry. What you did and taking Ava and changing my life is wrong. But I'm choosing to forgive you for my sake, for my sanity, for my future. And every moment I would do it, it got just a little bit better. A little bit better. And last is family members and friends. I was mentioning that earlier. I realized who my real friends were, who my real family was. And Santa Fe community and high school and the administration and the teachers and the coaches and those wonderful students rallied around me. They would not let me give up. I came back the Monday after Thanksgiving. This happened, I told you, October 24th, 25th of that year. I was out literally for 5 weeks. I came back the Monday. It was December 2nd. I came back and literally the students lined up and greeted me and loved on me and hugged me and thanked me for coming back. And they were so important in my recovery over the next 6, 7, 8, 9 months. For years, they were part of that. But I'm making a point, when I went back to the school, they loved on Coach Petrocelli. Their families loved on Coach Petrocelli. They encouraged Coach Petrocelli. That's why this Santa Fe community means the world to me, and I want to do something like this for you. Yeah, when school gets back, I will be back in the fall. There's no question. I'm coming back. I got to see my family. I got to see my Santa Fe peeps. You guys are the best. I'm proud of every one of you. I love when I was just there a few months ago at the end of February to be in the cafeteria again during lunchtimes, to walk around and talk to students, and students thanked me. Those who knew who I was and had remembered when I had been there speaking and had been there before. So it's so wonderful. See, here's the thing I want to say to every one of you. Understand this. Everything great in this world and everything boneheaded in this world that any of us will do is influenced by, first, our heart condition, our emotional heart condition. That's where our attitude flows. What I say to people all the time, and sometimes we use this phrase, oh, I just want you to be happy. You know what I say instead of that? I just want you to be content. Yeah, I want you to be happy. But if you base your happiness on circumstances and situations all the time, you're going to ride a roller coaster of emotions, because every time a circumstance and situation changes, you won't have happiness anymore because you're out of that other situation. Or maybe now you'll have happiness, and it constantly fluctuates. And it's okay, but I want you to be content, because your heart's attitude has a lot to do with it. But number two is the people we surround ourselves and our lives with. Who are those people? How important are they? Who do we allow in what I call in the inner circle? You know, it's like when you drop a stone or a pebble or something in a pool of water, you have what's called a ripple effect. Well, those that are closer, the ripple that is closer to where the stone went in is having a greater effect from the stone. Well, those people who are closer to you are going to have a greater impact on your life. But once again, you never do anything great or crazy or boneheaded in this world apart from yourself. There's people that will influence you. Because like I said, we all want to be loved, encouraged, accepted, embraced. And the reality is this: who are you surrounding yourself with? Me and Tyler Perry love to share the same thing. He's awesome. I love Tyler. And that is, your closest people in your life are either roots of a tree, leaves of a tree or branches of a tree. I tell people all the time, the real friends and people in your life are roots of a tree. Because the only time you ever see a tree go down is when it has a weak root system. Okay, or it's literally dead and it'll go down. You never see a tree uproot itself, run down the block, jump in a car and get away from a storm. I learned about hurricanes when I first moved to Texas in 1983. I had never been in an area to experience a hurricane, but ever since, not only Texas did I experience hurricanes, here in Florida I've experienced several. I lived in the Virginia Beach area of Virginia for a while. I experienced hurricanes there. So I never saw a tree uproot itself. But I got to tell you, the last hurricane that came through, even though it didn't hit us head on, my property, which has a lot of trees, I had more leaves and branches on the ground than anybody else in the whole neighborhood. But not one tree went over because the root system was strong enough. Surround yourself and support yourself with people that are truly roots in your life. Those who love you, those who want to embrace you, those who are there for you. Santa Fe, please know, you matter, you matter, you matter. You have such great value. I'm alive today. I now have two amazing sons, Alec and Aaron. Alec himself followed in Dad's steps in a way that, you know, he works as a coach. He's working in the state of Oklahoma now as a teacher and a coach. He's a defensive coordinator and D-line coach at a 4A school in Oklahoma. He played college football at Carolina. I would have never dreamed that when I stood over a casket that I could move on and now have two amazing sons. My son Aaron just graduated Liberty University. Alec himself got his master's degree last year. Aaron graduated Liberty University, is working in customer service in a car dealership in Lynchburg, Virginia, where he went to school. But he also does a lot of work with mental health and has encouraged his dad to help others in the area of mental health. Because in America, we say 43 million people deal with mental sickness and illness. And I say, no, 100% of us do. How come it's okay to be physically sick, to have a headache, to have a virus, to have a sore throat, to have an ear infection, a tooth infection? Well, there's varying degrees of mental sickness and illness. It's not all or nothing. So sometimes you're going to have a depressed or down day. We've all been there. I want to encourage you. Bobby Petrocelli loves you. The administration of Santa Fe School District, Santa Fe High School, and the entire Santa Fe community loves and adores you. That's part of the reason they're even including me to be part of this, to encourage you at this crazy time, because you matter. We are not defined even by the coronavirus. We are defined by our uniqueness, our individuality. And things want to chase after us. Hurt wants to chase after us to define us. No, it's not who we are. It's what happened to us, but it's not who we are. And the more you're able to look at your fingerprints and footprints and realize you're one of a kind, you're unique. And I always say to my audiences, will you be you? Because everybody else is already taken. So I encourage you this day to know you matter so much. You matter so much. You matter so much. First time I brought Alec and Aaron to Texas, and I love Texas. And just so you know, my 3 favorite foods I eat in Texas, and my students, former students know that, and those people who know me know that. 1, barbecue brisket. There is no better barbecue brisket in the world than in the state of Texas. Love it. Love it, love it, love it, love it, love it. Number 2, got to have my Mexican food. Fell in love with Mexican food. Adore it. Growing up in New York, I was always taught to love all people. My closest friends that I grew up with that were Hispanic were Cuban and Puerto Rican and South American, Colombian, so on and so forth. Well, I was finally introduced to the beautiful Mexican-American community when I moved to Texas, fell in love with it. And I loved the people tremendously. Fell in love with another ethnicity that I had never been introduced to because I'm taught to love all ethnicities. We all matter. Every culture matters. Every life matters. Every color matters. Every person matters. We're all unique. Thank goodness we don't all talk like Bobby Petrocelli. During this social distancing, I can't stay 6 feet from people. I got to be 12 feet from people. I'm Italian. I spit when I talk. They got to stay far enough away or I'm going to shower them with blessings if I don't have a mask on. Number 2, we talk with our hands as Italians, as you've been seeing, because we got to catch the spit. I got to catch the spit before it hits the screen of the video camera that I'm speaking on. The reality is this: we all matter. We all count. So I can't encourage you enough. You know what? Thank you for making the best of all that has come your way, especially starting with 2 years ago, what happened and how you've had to work through all of that. But even now with this coronavirus, students, you have done an amazing job. And I hope my words today have spoken life to you and encouragement, that you would know how valuable and incredible and amazing you are. You would know that what you bring to the table, nobody else can bring to the table. You matter. Yous matter. Say it with me. You're from Brooklyn. Yous matter. And then say it like you're from Texas. Y'all matter. We do all matter. We do. The one thing I loved about Texas is when I took my boys to Texas for the first time, I always wondered this. How come when parents want to spank or punish their children in Texas, why do they take them to Walmart? I always watch kids running for their lives at Walmart. It's like their parents are chasing them up and down the aisle. I remember when I first moved there, I said, this is a cool place. I have kids. I live in Texas. I'm going to take them to Walmart. What a perfect place to punish them. I'm just playing. But I remember taking my kids to Walmart, and it's like they heard me tell the story. They're thinking, Dad, are we getting punished or spanked? No, not at all. Not at all. But Santa Fe, I love you. I love the community. I love every parent. I love everybody who's making this community ride over this tragedy that took place 2 years ago and making the best of it, and even making the best of this craziness of this coronavirus and doing the best that you can in this situation. Like I said, I'm looking so forward to Santa Fe opening next fall and me having the privilege and honor of coming back with all the wonderful people of Santa Fe. You're amazing. You're amazing. And even to this day, before I lost all these programs myself as a speaker, this spring, it's amazing how much I talk about Santa Fe. And I tell the people and every place I go, the love that I received made me feel how much I mattered. Because the first thing we do, we go through tragedies is, what's wrong with me? Why did this happen to me? Am I being punished? And you know what? I did nothing wrong but go to bed with my wife at night. And somebody else who never dealt with their hurt or their pain or their brokenness chose the wrong thing to try to deal with it. So my heart is out there with you. You matter. And when I say it doesn't, as you see behind me, we all have its that chase after us. Bury those its. Don't let those its control your life. When you drive a car, as I mentioned earlier, you're going to spend most of your time in the moment looking into your future. You'll glance into your past through the rearview mirror once in a while to see what's going on behind you. You're not just sitting there looking in the rearview mirror. Well, life is the same way. Spend your time going through life, embracing this moment right now, because this is all we have. This present moment, the power of now. This moment matters. And let me say this to every one of you. If I said anything today that touched your heart, yeah, you could reach out and thank me. Sure, I'm grateful. You can go to social media. I'm all over social media. Not that I know what I'm doing with it. You could reach out to me, email me, text me, whatever, those who know me close enough. And even if you don't know me close enough, feel free to reach out. As I said, I'm on social media. But guess what? Understand this. I am who I am today because of all those who rallied around me. I even get places in groups like State Farm Insurance that has helped sponsor some of the stuff I do, that helped me go into schools and places because they believe in the message I'm trying to share. I have friends that support me. But please, if I said anything today that touched your heart, thank all the beautiful people that made this happen. Dr. Wall, thank your wonderful principal, Miss Rachel Harris. Thank Patty Hansard. Thank all the teachers, coaches, administrators, counselors that allowed Bobby Petrocelli to come back into your world and share today. Thank them all. Thank them for allowing this to take place and giving me that chance to speak into your life once again. Santa Fe, you're amazing. And I hope I say something or have said something that really speaks to you. And you take that and embrace it and know that you can overcome everything that comes your way. Doesn't mean it's easy, but there's people that want to help support you and encourage you and push you forward. So Santa Fe, to my beautiful Santa Fe family, I love you. You matter. Yous matter. Y'all matter. And thank you so much for making me proud to be part of the Santa Fe family and to get to do what I get to do. Millions and millions of lives have been touched because of the Santa Fe community helping me at my time. I'm hoping people will take this message and help others in their tough times. God bless every one of you. You matter.